Hello, everybody. This is Jean Caragher, president of Capstone Marketing. I am so happy to be talking today with Korby Boswell, the senior marketing and growth specialist at Adams Brown, who was recently named the Association for Accounting Marketing Volunteer of the Year. Korby joined AIM in 2017. He is the chair of AIM's Member Growth Committee. Korby also plays a vital role in the AIM circles. Lots of folks know about those now, those communities of marketers with similar interests or skills or perhaps a geographic area. He has been active in ensuring the 27 circles, and I think there might be even more than that at this point, right? Ensuring the 27 circles and their leaders have the resources and support they need, which has resulted in 235 members participating in a circle. That is amazing. Korby, congratulations on being named Volunteer of the Year.
Thank you, Jean. Wow, that was quite the intro. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, it's, a lot goes into AIM, and of course, AIM, lives by its volunteers.
Mhm.
So to come up with a number of over 200 members participating in at least one circle, that is, that's incredible. I mean, the idea, whosever idea it was, is fantastic because clearly there was a need. So
Mhm.
let's start off just a little bit. Could you share with us just a little bit more about those circles and how they came about?
Yeah, so circles, I think were a brainchild of Christian Moises and Mitch Reno. And then they kind of birthed it, and then they said, "Hey, Korby, are you interested in helping?" And they talked me into it, and it's been an awesome experience. Circles, just like you said, I mean, they're small groups of people with a common interest. And so when they first started, we sent out a form and we said, "Hey, what are you interested? Tell us a little bit about how big your firm is, what your firm does, what your role is, all of those things." So we could group people together kind of similarly. But the cool thing about circles is there's no right or wrong answer to do them. And so we have circles with 3, 4, or 5 people. We have a circle with 15 or 20 people. I was on a call yesterday and there's a circle of HubSpot people, and I think it's something like close to 30. Jean,
I'm
you might
part
have
of that
actually,
group.
I would say you've either spoke to them or you're part of that group.
Yeah.
And they're organic. And so people can come and go as they please. We do try to track, attendance just so we can show who is participating and which groups they're part of. But it all comes down to the awesome circle leaders. We have a dedicated group of, you're right, I think there's 27, 28, 29 different circles. And so there's a person who leads the charge on each of those 27, 28, or 29 different
Mhm.
groups. And that looks different in different circles. So in some, they might facilitate the conversation every month if they meet monthly, or every 2 months if they meet every 2 months. They might delegate that out, and everybody in the circle has a turn throughout the year where they did some research and drive some sort of a conversation, or maybe they're just asking questions and keeping the conversation going.
Mhm.
Some of them bring in outside speakers, but they're that opportunity for people to connect virtually. For me, I don't live very close to any other AIM members, and so it's cool to be able to connect virtually if there's there's not really chapters. And so these are almost like virtual chapters for people with a common interest. If you're a marketing director in a firm of $50 million or more, there's a group out there for you to connect with and share best practices. And I think that's what people have enjoyed the most is let's learn from each other. And they're super collaborative and open to sharing. I think the accounting industry is in general. But yeah, there's a lot to learn from one another. And so, yeah, the group that birthed this, I mean, it certainly met the need. And the
Right.
other cool thing I'll mention about circles is that they are so organic, and really in the last like 3, 4, 5 months, there's been some other circles that have popped out of the woodwork and said, "Hey, we should have one dedicated to tax marketing." And so we have one called All Things Tax with 6 or 8, 10 people in it now, and they spend their time talking about marketing tax services. There's a group that's just starting dedicated to public speaking. I don't know if it's going to be quite Toastmasters like, but the circle is going to decide what that looks like, and they're going to help each other become
Right.
better at public speaking, and maybe even train themselves on how to train others how to become better public speakers, which is kind of cool. There's one about driving positive change, I think it's called that, I think, or some version
Oh,
of that.
interesting.
And then I think there's kind of a sustainability-esque circle out there too. So anyone listening, if you would like to join a circle or if you would like to lead a circle, there's certainly opportunity AIM has something like maybe close to 900 members, I believe. And so we're happy with the 200 and some that are currently in circles, but there's room to grow. So get on the AIM
Right.
website if you're interested in learning more.
Very good plug, Corby. That's right. For the
Use the
circles.
platform while we have it. That's right, Gene.
That's right. Do you know, how much did the pandemic play into forming these circles? Did it have anything to do, or was it part of it? Was it the realization that, hey, we've got this great ability now to meet virtually. Why don't we figure out how to make that work?
I'm sure it played a part. I'm speculating here a little bit, but I'm sure it played a part. I think they were probably thought of in 2020, and then we really executed them in 2021, which
Right.
is
Okay.
when, the pandemic is still here, right? It's not totally gone away, but things are
No.
morphing a little bit. But they did begin in a time where a lot of people were still working from home. The conference was still, at the time when we launched them, I think the conference could only have something like 50 or 100 people there in person. And so this did give people the ability to connect with other accounting marketers in a virtual way and still get
Right.
something meaningful from it.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's fantastic. And as I mentioned, I am part of that HubSpot circle. So
Mhm,
to meet some of those members, live
mhm,
was great because
mhm,
everybody was. I'm sure everybody had the same experience, circle or not. Um, I've seen your face, on my computer screen for 2
mhm.
years now, and it's great, to meet you in person. So this is,
Absolutely.
yeah. So kudos and thank you for all the hard work on the circles.
Absolutely. And
Uh,
the HubSpot circle is a cool example too, because when we first sent out the survey of, what kind of circle are you interested in, there was just a few comments in the, what other comments do you have, open text field, and it said, we'd love to see one for HubSpot. And it was like 2 or 3 comments. And that group has grown from those 2 or 3 people who said they wanted to be part of it initially to something like
right.
25 or 30 now. And so it has been an organic
Right.
grassroots effort.
Yep. Absolutely.
I want to be a fly on
Absolutely.
the wall in that
Yeah,
circle. It sounds like
there
a
you
cool one.
go. There you go. Um, so Corby, you are an AIM success story. You joined your firm, you joined AIM, you dove in, you won Rookie of the Year. And as we've just talked about, winning this Volunteer of the Year award, this is like you took this opportunity and you just embraced it. Uh, so as I mentioned, Corby and I did have a capstone conversation in 2019 after he did win the Rookie of the Year. You could find that at capstonemarketing.com. And at that point, Corby, in 2019, your title was Marketing and Growth Specialist, and your firm's name was Adams, Brown, Barron, and Ball,
Hmm.
which you referred to as ABBB.
Hmm.
So things have changed a lot since we
Hmm.
talked in 2019, right? You have a different title and a different firm name and brand.
Hmm.
How, tell us, how did that all come about?
It's been a busy few years, Gene. Yeah, it really has. So, in 2020, we were changing entity structure, and that kind of sprung a rebrand need for it. It's something we've talked about the entire time I've worked here. Is we're going to rebrand. Our name's really long. People don't know what to call us. There's so many B's. Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 2? Nobody ever had the right number of B's. Um, and so, I mean, the timing was right given our entity structure change and kind of our reorganization that was happening. Um, because I was really hired to help the firm specialize by service line and industry, and we worked with a consultant who helped us. But that's kind of where I came in, was to help support that initiative. And so that, coupled with the reorg that was happening, we were putting the pieces in place. We knew the time was right to reevaluate our brand, which was a little bit dated at the time. And so I feel much more modern now, but that was a really interesting kind of year-long process of,
Right,
let's ask our clients and prospects, let's do data analysis to see, how do people refer to us? What do people call us? And the name really came from, I was sitting in a focus group, and we had a survey too, but the focus group really confirmed it for me. I think it was a man in the room. He was like, why, I always just call you Adams Brown anyway, because I don't know the whole name. And so rather than come up with a different name, we stuck with, well, this is what people call us. Let's go to market as what people call
right.
us. And
Uh-huh.
it's pronounceable, it's memorable, it's all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So that data analysis exercise was really interesting there. So yeah,
Right.
lots happened with the rebrand. And then I hired my first teammate here about a year ago. a little over a year ago, and she accepted a new job recently, which is kind of a bummer.
Oh,
But I have a new teammate joining here in a couple weeks. So I'm looking forward to building out our marketing department a little bit more internally than we have in the past. So
right.
the winds of change are pushing us in the right direction.
That's awesome. See, then it's just, it seems like you're approaching all of this very thoughtfully. Um, and I'm sure that when it comes to, hiring team members, you've given some thought about exactly what you need
Hmm.
that person to do as opposed to, just getting another body on board.
Hmm. Agreed. Yep.
Yeah. Um, so we touched upon COVID a
Hmm.
little bit when we were talking about the circles, but through this crisis, I don't know that I'd refer to it as a crisis anymore, but it's still kind of lurking out there,
Hmm.
right? We can't, the pandemic still comes into play. Tell me what you have learned about yourself and others in your firm that is going to benefit you in the future.
Hmm. So I took some notes, Gene. I know you sent me some questions in advance. I was like, I better think about what I want to say here, but I have some decent answers, I think, for today's interview. Um, I think COVID taught us that there's not always a clear right answer. There's kind of a gray area, and it's okay to try things, even if they don't always work. I think that's what it really taught me, and I hope it taught some other marketers too, is don't let the fear of, trying to make it perfect keep you from doing what needs to be done. Because perfect example is before COVID, we had never done any webinars, for example. I think there were some other firms who hadn't done any webinars pre-COVID
Mhm.
either. But on our first webinar, I think it was 2 days after the CARES Act passed, or three, we had 800 people attend our webinar. And we did not know what we were doing very well, but we figured it out, and we had some stumbles and we fixed them along the way. But there's certainly opportunity to take a chance. A webinar's not that risky, but call it a risk, if you will, to help benefit your firm and your clients. And so I think it was a real time, COVID was and beyond, is a real time for marketing departments to step up and lead the charge at their firm, because marketing is more than running a website or graphic design. It's all of these things, and it's a strategic growth driver at your firm.
Absolutely. If there was ever a time for accounting marketers to shine and show what they are able to do and contribute, it has been during this pandemic.
Mhm.
And I have to believe that there are partners within firms that perhaps didn't understand what their marketers were doing or what they were contributing. And the marketers over these past 2 years have shown them exactly what they bring to the table.
Mhm.
It's too bad it took a pandemic for some,
Mhm. Mhm.
but on the positive note, I believe it was really an education for a lot of partners, which we
Mhm.
can, all take as
Mhm.
very much of a
Agreed.
positive result.
It was yeah, it was a kind of a perfect storm it was a perfect reason to throw the rules out the window, right? I mean, we
Right.
all have some internal workings to work through, but if it's brand new, you're setting the stage for here's how this works. And you can cut through some of that minutia. Not that you need some of those controls and checks in place, of course, but yeah, it's the perfect reason to eat that elephant one bite at a time. Take a bite and
Right.
let's go. There's no
Yep.
other option, because
Exactly.
you're either going to
Exactly.
get the
Just, I mean,
information from your firm or another firm.
right. Well, and everybody has learned new technologies.
Hmm.
I mean, I used to use Adobe Connect all the
Hmm.
time. And boy, this pandemic came and I realized what Adobe Connect was not able to do. So it was shoot, turn around, really get to learn Zoom, and how that works, or Teams. So it just, gosh, we really just had to bounce back and we showed ourselves what we could do, with
Absolutely.
very little time or notice, what's
Hmm.
possible, right?
100%.
Uh, so when we spoke in 2019, I asked you about the greatest challenge of marketing CPA firms. Now you've got a few more years experience under your belt for your response, but in 2019, you talked about technology
Mhm.
and the use of technology and marketing automation, uh, and to really be able to pay attention to that and utilize the technology that was available.
Mhm.
So when I ask you now what the greatest challenges in marketing CPA firms is, would that still be your response, technology, or has something else changed?
I think that was Kudos to me. I think that was a good response in 2019, and I think it is still relevant today.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
the so technology, I think, is something we all battle with. We're getting ready to launch a couple initiatives here this summer related to technology, and so it's still alive and well. But we're taking some more action on them than maybe we were in 2019, which is exciting. But as I was thinking about this interview, a couple different thoughts came to mind, kind of in this post-pandemic world and the Great Resignation, or the Great Resignation, I should say.
Right.
Um, I think it's staffing in the marketing department, and they think staffing in the professional side of the firm too, as well. Coming out of Summit, I heard some firms talking about, do we stop marketing because we want to support the work that we have today, or do we keep going and fear that we can't support the work that we may pick up along the way? And so I know every firm's kind of trying to balance out what that looks like, but I don't think it's not time to let off the gas just yet. And so I think marketing's biggest challenge right now is helping in recruiting, kind of a new world for some of us that aren't as focused on recruiting these days.
Right.
And then I think the ongoing challenge to think beyond the billable hour and to think beyond tax and think of as an advisor. I'll put a plug for Strategic Allies here as well. Part of our new brand of being more than we see you at tax season. There's a lot of opportunity to be that advisor or strategic ally to clients out there. And
Yes.
it's a work in progress. I think every firm's making progress there, but it's a hard ship to turn after heading in a direction for the last however many years.
Right. I can tell you, Corby, the profession has been having that true advisor, conversation for the past 30 years.
Mhm.
So, um, and again, maybe that's something that the pandemic brings us, just making that more front and center,
Mhm.
and firms and firm leadership being more proactive
Mhm.
in making that happen and utilizing the tools and programs that can help them
Mhm.
be true advisors
Mhm.
as opposed to accountants.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm
You can
not
be both.
downplaying what accountants do. Let's
Mhm.
let's face it. The world needs accountants and CPAs. But
Mhm.
you touched on pricing. There's a lot of ways that these big issues can be addressed.
Mhm.
But you're right. It's a big ship, and when you're asking people to change the way they've done things forever, that's a big ask. It's
Mhm.
possible, but it's a big ask.
Mhm. And I think technology is kind of the undertone in all of the above, right? I mean, technology can help in recruiting, it can help in pricing,
For
it can
sure.
help in, what are we selling to clients and where are we truly being an advisor so we can replicate that model elsewhere. I mean, yeah, if I had to go back and do it all again, maybe I would have studied IT, but that's okay.
That's right. And data analytics and all that,
Mhm.
right? That's a
Mhm.
big deal. Oh, goodness. So your network has expanded also in the course of these years, since we last had our conversation. But I'll ask you again about the factors or skills that make accounting marketers successful. So in 2019, you talked about the need for accounting marketers to be flexible and being able to prioritize what they do. You even used the words, put which fire you should put out first. I even
Mhm.
used that quote as part of my presentation at Summit in that rookie workshop, because yeah, marketers have worked like that for a long time, and
Mhm.
and some still are. So it's really important to prioritize,
Mhm.
um, and to really just to own what they do.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts today?
I think those still remain true. I think maybe a bigger bucket to put some of those in would be, I think project management is really important. So being organized, yes, but it's more than being organized. It's about driving a project, driving the outcome, overcoming the hurdles along the way. And it's something I'm taking some classes on project management and working on a credential for. I have
Oh,
not
nice.
finished. I've had some other bumps in the road that have kept me from finishing it, but it's still on my to-do list.
Uh-huh.
But as I was thinking about this interview, yeah, I think project management is something that accounting marketers can really take and own, um, because I mean the beauty of project management is you don't have to know all the answers, but if you ask the right questions, I mean you can still get there. You don't have to necessarily know every answer to every question. And so coupled with that, I think the other piece is having a research mindset and a willingness to explore. right? If COVID taught us anything, it's that we don't know everything and there are answers out there, and all you have to do is ask or research or Google or whatever it is. But you can find it and make educated decisions. And if you stumble, adjust after you land, kind of thing, and then keep moving down the road. And then the third thing that I think people need is good interpersonal communication skills and relationship building skills in your firms and then externally. I think knowing people in AIM, being involved in AIM is incredibly important. I think a lot of my good ideas come from AIM, from other members.
Mhm.
I'm not coming up with them in a vacuum, and so the credit certainly goes to AIM and to its members for being collaborative and open to sharing, and then being able to bring that back to your firm. And have good relationships with your partners and leaders at the firm to make it happen, to pull it together and project manage it over the finish line.
Right. Yeah, I know that both of us love AIM, and it has been a very sharing, collaborative environment from the beginning, right from the beginning, that, most members are more than willing to share ideas or resources or templates or whatever it might be. So, all of us can be really proud about that, that's the culture that all of us have created for the organization. Yeah. And I loved your response about doing the research and learning more. I've done a lot of these conversations, and on many occasions, I will get the feedback that accounting marketers need to be curious. And that's exactly what you were talking about. Be curious about things, want to learn more about things, dig into it. And also, not that you have to become experts on topics, but, if there's an initiative you're working on, like, really delve into it, talk to other people, to be able to make your pitch, to pitch on it. So it's that's another commonality that's kind of run through over all these years.
Yeah, I like that. Be curious, be an inquisitive mind. Yeah, I like that.
Yes. Yep. So tell us, which of your personal skills do you think contributes most to your success? And this time, I'm not going to tell you what your response was. I'm going to let you answer this, and then we'll see how it may have
If it
changed or
lines
not.
up.
How's that?
I don't, that's okay, because I don't think I remember what I said last time. It's been a little while, but I think it comes back to a similar two factors. I think it's being able to research and being curious, right? There's an answer out there. You just have to figure it out, put the puzzle together, if you will. And then I think being organized and that project management component. I use a project management software. I flag emails in my inbox. I have sticky notes and lists on my desk, but keeping track of what's happening, and taking copious notes so you can remember in a week, because a lot of stuff's happened in the last week.
Oh, for sure.
Helps keep you organized, and it helps keep you in a place where you can prioritize, because any accounting marketer has probably more to do than they have time for. And so going back to that comment from 2019 about which fire to put out first, I mean, that's kind of your single source of truth. You need some way to decipher, where should I be focusing my time? And if you don't know, ask somebody. Somebody might have an answer for
Exactly.
you. But
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, you can't do it all, and don't hold yourself to that standard either, because
Right.
you'll go crazy if you do.
Absolutely. So, are you willing to tell us what project management software you're using?
Yeah, I use Asana, and I like it for a lot of reasons. It has some interesting views on the data, and you can kind of see how many things have been completed. There's a collaboration component to it that I like. I work with some kind of outsourced pseudo teammates, and I can assign things to them even if they don't have an account in my org, as action items or to-do items before we meet again in a week or two, kind of thing, which is cool. But it's a nice view of here's all the things, and you can label things and color code, so you know that these to-dos relate to such and such a webinar, or these to-dos relate to content marketing. I think it's very similar to like a Trello, or a Monday.com. I think I demoed both of those before I picked Asana. But the nice thing about Asana too, seems like none of them are super expensive. I think I pay for a couple users, I think it's maybe like $200 a year or something.
Oh my goodness.
Well worth the investment to
Oh,
help keep
yes,
organized.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you that your answer in 2019 for your personal skill was your willingness to listen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
2019 Korby.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. Being willing and able to learn.
Mhm.
But you've touched on that again. So that
Mhm.
remains important.
Mhm.
That's a common
Mhm.
theme here.
Mhm.
Okay. So tell me what your best piece of advice would be for accounting marketers. In 2019, you said that accounting marketers need to be their own biggest fan,
Mhm.
and to build that team or network to be able to support you and bounce ideas off of. And we've
Mhm.
touched on that too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, any different piece of advice for the marketers?
I think it's a quote from Eric Myshak at Summit, not the most recent Summit, but maybe 2 years ago. It was the virtual. It was during COVID. I think it was the virtual one, and I think he like closed the conference, or he was like
Yes.
the ending keynote or something.
Yep. Yes, he and
And
Mitch. Oh my gosh.
yes, it was
What a double
incredible.
whammy. That was
Mhm.
amazing.
There was a quote in there that said, "Marketing's currency is qualified leads." And so I have that on a sticky note here on my desk. And so it's easy to lose track of stuff in the whirlwind or with all the fires going on, but that's where that's where our currency is in qualified leads. I joke that, people look at you different if you call them and say, "Hey, I have a $50,000 opportunity. Can you call them today?"
Right.
And so as marketers look to build their careers and advocate for themselves, and get that seat at the table and become leaders, I think it is through um, uh, it's through qualified leads. And I think it's that continual message of that marketing is more than trinkets and pretty things. It's so much more than
Okay.
that. And it's easy
Yeah.
to get pigeonholed as one of those or the party planners. And
Right.
not that those things aren't important and valuable, but there's so much more that goes to it. So if you can bring that strategic edge to the conversation, it helps elevate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So then we'll flip it around. What would be your best piece of advice for managing partners?
This was a hard one. I really like my managing partner. He's behind this wall here. Actually, I think he's at a conference today, but we share a wall.
We
Um,
talked about that last time,
mhm.
and the positioning of your office is ideal
Uh-huh.
because you're
Mhm.
right there. It just,
Mhm.
that's it, top
Yep.
of mind. That's awesome.
Peek my head in there when needed. That's right. And he'll peek his head in too. But I have a couple pieces of advice I think for managing partners. And the first would be to trust your marketers.
Mhm.
Um, I think there are some firms that maybe are less trusting. I'm fortunate to have the trust of my partners and our managing partner, within reason, right, to act on the
Sure.
best interests of the firm. So trust, I think, is one. A second one is I think managing partners are crucial in advocating for the importance of content marketing, and that educational stance to marketing. I mean, I was talking to somebody earlier this morning. I feel really fortunate, is pretty much nobody will tell me no to writing an article, especially if you line them up with a ghostwriter, or if you say, "I'll interview you," or I'll, whatever you need to do to get them to say yes. But,
Right.
my firm is beginning to see the importance of it, and they're seeing web leads come from content marketing, and they're sending their own articles to their clients. And so the winds of change, I think they are really, really
Ah,
important. And we're headed in the right direction here. We're not all the way there, but
right.
I think the leadership team and the managing partner can have a huge impact in that, in the success of a content marketing program. Um, and then my final piece of advice would be just to remain in lockstep about how and where you want to grow. Growth sounds easy, but it's hard to be everything to everyone.
Right.
And so pick and choose. What's the focus for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is, and then put a plan together to get there. And so it takes that collaboration with the leaders of your firm to really zone in on that strategic growth, something that was talked about at Summit a lot this year. Um,
Yeah.
where's the best place for you to grow?
Corby, that is a fantastic point, because earlier on we were talking about how firms have so much business and more marketers are focusing on taking care of current clients and helping with recruiting, and firms are shying away from obtaining more new
Mhm.
clients or new revenue. But when you do that strategically, you could also keep in mind which clients you shouldn't be working with any
Mhm.
longer, and really right sizing that client
Mhm.
base.
Mhm.
So it's not just, you're right, it's not just let's grow, like
Mhm.
however it could be. It's okay, we want to grow, but in which areas and how quickly or slowly,
Mhm.
and specifically, like, how are we going to do that?
Mhm.
Very
Agreed.
important.
And I
Yeah.
think every firm, and myself included, we're still learning that not every opportunity is a good opportunity, even if it looks incredible. I mean, there are reasons to say no to opportunities.
Yes.
Even if it's the shiny car that came across your desk today. Not every opportunity or not every client is a good fit for your firm. And so
Amen.
something we can all continue to refine and own in on as
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would add that in 2019, your response was about encouraging managing partners to think of marketing as thinking about marketing more as an investment as opposed to an expense.
mhm,
And that it really adds, it's an investment in the firm's reputation
mhm,
and financial health moving forward. So
mhm,
there's commonalities there too, and you're
mhm,
seeing it coming out in different ways.
mhm. Yeah, I would agree. Yep, it is an investment. It takes marketing to
Right,
get you there.
right,
Mhm.
right. Corby, it is wonderful to see your progression in the profession. We're thrilled to have you here. And as I said before, you're a marketing success story of how you can join a firm, dive in at AIM, build that network, and really, learn and grow. So kudos about all of that. Um, so we've been talking today with Korby Boswell, the Senior Marketing and Growth Specialist at Adams Brown, who was recently named Ames Volunteer of the Year. Korby, congratulations again on the award. It's very well deserved.
Thank you very much, Gene, and thanks for having me. This has been fun.